So I think sports kind of can break things down in a way of give you an easy roadmap because if you know how to do it in sports, you should be able to do it in business. It requires the same thing. It requires a ton of effort. It requires a ton of hard work. It requires some ingenuity. It requires a lot of intelligence. It requires respect and eat like all the different life skills. You can group them all together and use the vocabulary that you want. But at the end of the day, to be successful with sports, business, relationships, life, I guess, it they all require the same skills. And it's how are you going to go about acquiring those skills, and how are you going to do that on a day-to-day basis?
What's up? Welcome to another episode of Tomboy Stories. This series is all about humans sharing how they are actively using the life skills sports taught them. In this episode, Quinn, a gymnast, wrestler, football player, golfer, mascot, cheerleader, and MMA fighter, shares how his sports experiences continue to play a role in his personal life and as he built his business, Born to Win. Stay tuned to hear Quinn's story, and please hit that subscribe and follow button. So we'll start with the very first question. So what was your earliest sports memory?
Really, for me, I mean, I started playing sports when I was like 4 years old. So for me, growing up as a wrestler and gymnast, like those were the first two that I did. Both of my parents were gymnasts, and my dad's parents owned a gymnastics gym. So, I mean, pretty much like I spent most of my life and early years. I was pretty much just like that little kid running around the gym, jumping on trampolines, hanging out in the foam pit, on the uneven bars, parallel bars, beam, all of it. Just living it up as a little kid in a gymnastics gym with free reign because both my parents were coaches, and so they were doing their thing, and grandparents were coaches. So really, for me, um, I can just remember, as a little kid jumping on a trampoline and just trying to stay out of everybody's way. And for me, like I got to have fun, jumping on a trampoline, doing front flips and back flips and stuff, and hanging out on the pads. And there was a day that I ended up bringing like I brought like a PlayStation or something because we had like a little TV that was at the gym because I got in somebody's way, and my mom was mad at me or something, or whatever it was. It was like, hey, just like stay out of everybody's way and just kind of be off. But really, for me, I think the earliest memories have to definitely do with when I was a gymnast and a little kid, just running around having fun, and getting a chance to essentially be more than a kid in a candy shop. I mean, it was kind of nice having no type of supervision for the most part. So I can just remember all the different smells of the gym and the chalk, and it's fun to look back on. And I think out of anything, that was probably the earliest start that I had. And I did that for 3 years until we actually moved to Texas. But I'd probably say that was the earliest I can remember.
Oh wow, yeah, gyms like that, gymnastic studios have a very distinct smell, so I can only
Oh
imagine.
yeah.
Yes,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
well, that's so cool, and absolutely. I mean, if most parents are like, please don't jump off of that, and your parents like, free reign, go ahead, jump off of that and get into the ball pit. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was out of their hair, and they could focus on doing what they want. Because, for the most part, like it wasn't like I was doing anything too crazy. Every once in a while they'd look over and, make sure I was good. But, I was in my own world having fun, and, it was nice because every once in a while some of the gymnasts would come over, and, the older ones and whatnot, and, they would talk with me and hang out, and, if they were in between or before practice or after practice or whatnot. So I got a chance to, hang out with them too.
That's so cool. So you were a gymnast, obviously, and so what other sports did you play? I see you got football stuff in the background too.
Yep. So the football jerseys above me. There's actually five that are on the wall since I've moved to Fargo. So I moved to Fargo in November of 2020, and I started playing football again. January of 2021 is when I joined. It's a semi-pro team here in Fargo. But thinking back to all the sports that I played, I mean, I was a gymnast as a kid. I wrestled as a really young kid, baseball, soccer, golf. Um, I had done a couple sprint triathlons as a kid. Um, I mean, just trying to think back. I think there's like 10 total sports that I've played. As of recently, so football is kind of current right now, and we're about to get into our season. So still currently playing football. I started training for MMA in like the beginning of October was when I kind of first started getting into the MMA gym. And I'm probably, as of right now, I think the fight I was supposed to have scheduled in April, we're now moving back to October of this year. So I wrestled for 14 years, and so that's kind of like why the MMA like is kind of top of mind. But yeah, still playing football. I played golf my freshman year of college. Um, I then left that school that I was playing golf at on scholarship at Lewis University, transferred back home to Texas. I went to the University of North Texas where I wrestled, and from there I was an NCAA Go Greco All American. And from that point, I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to wrestle anymore. And then that next semester was the fall semester of my junior year. I actually cheered at the University of North Texas, and then I ended up leaving school after that. So, in terms of what I've done as of late, I guess MMA, once it officially happens and I actually have an official fight, technically it's five sports at the college level or higher. I always like to use the parentheses, air quotes, asterisks for cheer. We did compete as different competitions and whatnot. So like that's why I say asterisks and quotations, because I say that aspect of cheer is a sport. It's very competitive. Um, it's very skill intensive, and it's requires a lot of attention to detail. It's a mixture of like both dance, gymnastics, and a little bit of synced choreography and just regular skills with jumps and tumbling and stunting and whatnot. So I'll say that aspect of the sport, yes, like it has that, but sideline cheer, it's not a sport. You're out there just having fun. And then just as a fun mix in, I also was a mascot my junior and senior year of high school, and then my freshman and sophomore years of college. So um, at Lewis University, we were the Flyers. So I was a World War II pilot, which his name was Bedcheck Charlie. And then my sophomore year at the University of North Texas, I was Scrappy, and Scrappy is an eagle. So that was kind of fun. And then in high school, he was then named Riot, but he was just a ranger. So essentially just a cowboy, had kind of a mean look on his face. And um, out of anything, I think that was probably the most fun versus, actually playing the sports and being super intense and, training and whatnot. And being a mascot is completely different. You don't really have rules, and you get to do whatever you want. If someone doesn't want you doing something, they normally come and tell you afterwards of like, hey, like, don't do that again. And you're just like, okay, like we'll see. Like, hey, don't run on the field and don't do this, after or whatever. It's like, okay, we'll see if that happens again. Well, I might go back and do it. But at the University of North Texas, it was a lot of fun. So having a big D1 football program, and a large stadium, and being in Conference USA, I did get a chance. I danced with the dancers at like one of their like dance breaks. I got to crowd surf one time, doing some other crazy stuff. So out of anything, like I think being a mascot was probably like the most fun that I've had involved with sports. Not actually competing, but yeah, sports are a very large aspect of what I've done. And at this point, it's like I've seen it, I think, from every angle. I've been an athlete in multiple different sports. I've done the mascot, and on the not actively a part of the team, but like not actively a fan either. So like the intermediate, and then being a fan, I've been a coach, I've been an official. So like I feel like I have every viewpoint from some different sports down.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that statement. It sounds like, yeah, you've done way more than I think a lot of people have ever done. So that is awesome. And so I guess, I mean, this question isn't necessarily on the thing that I gave you, but as far as your willingness to do such things, what was kind of, I mean, obviously this was a choice for you in some ways. What made you want to do and experience all these different things as far as these different sports, the different ways you've been able to engage with them? What's been the driver for you?
That's a really good question. I think kind of starting from a from a kid. So because I got started with sports so early, and I mean, my family was always involved in sports. So, my dad being a D1 gymnast at the University of Illinois. My mom was a gymnast up until college, but then she played softball and volleyball in college. My sister, she's 4 years older than me. And so, by the time I remember getting involved in sports, she was already involved in sports. She was a gymnast. She played softball. She did volleyball. Um, my mom's side of the family is very large. She's the middle of seven, and every single one of her siblings have done some sports of some sort. So she's got three brothers and three sisters. Um, Two of her brothers also wrestled at the University of Illinois. Her oldest brother also wrestled in college. Her youngest sister played softball, and I remember going to her games. And so, really, for me, like I just kind of grew up encompassed in sports. I mean, it was the only thing I had around me. And where we initially were in the south side of Chicago, like really for me, like it was an initial way to kind of stay out of trouble and stay involved in stuff. And I guess I never really enjoyed the off season part of sports. And so for me, it was always I'd see something else and I'm like, well, like I think I could do that. Like I played this, so like I should be able to go and do this. And why not? Like I want to go give that a shot. And so my mom was always, really big encourager behind me of, just whatever sport I wanted to do or anything that I wanted to do. She was always, the first one to say, yeah, let's go do it. And, what do we need to do? So I think that's kind of for me, it's like I use sports to not be bored. And I enjoyed school and getting a chance to like interact and learning because, that can be fun if it's the right topic. But more for me, like sports was a great way to socialize. I got a chance to be around a bunch of teammates. You get to travel, you get to go and compete. And really at the end of the day, like I'm really seeking that I want to achieve something. It's setting my sights on, hey, I want to go be a wrestler. Hey, I want to go be a football player. Hey, I want to go play baseball. Hey, I want to play golf. And really, at the end of the day, it's not that I'm really competing against anybody else because, like, I am, and the scoreboard says I am, but that's the irrelevant part of the sport. Like, that's the thing that at the end of the day really doesn't matter. It's well, what's your whole book of growth? What's your whole um, video span of what you've done in sports? How have you grown? How have you changed? Are you better than you were before? Did you give it 100%? Are you out there trying? Or are you out there, being lackadaisical? Are you striving to be better? Are you a leader? Are you, seeking the more egotistical side of you just want people to recognize you? Or are you humble and you can take into account of there is great success, but there's also a lot of failure? And so for me, sports were a way that I was able to learn all these different life lessons because I've done so many different sports. And doing the different sports, I think each one kind of focuses on a little bit different skills. Where, with football, it's huge on teamwork. It's you need to do your job and focus on your job and trust that the guy next to you is going to do his job. Because if everybody does their job collectively, then you play well as a team. If one person makes a mistake, everyone makes a mistake. And so the teamwork aspect and the individual accountability and being able to step up as a leader and being humble. And so like football has that aspect, but then on the flip side, like wrestling is completely one-on-one. It's you versus an opponent, but at the same time, before you even get the chance to wrestle, it's you versus you in terms of cutting the weight, to make the weight, to step on the scale, to even qualify to wrestle in the tournament. It's more of a battle with yourself to make that weight. And it's completely on you, and there's no one else to blame but yourself. It's accountability to make sure you're maintaining a great diet, to make sure that you're, doing all the necessary work that you need to during the week to both lose the weight and on top of that, prepare for a whole mixture of opponents that you could have that weekend, where you could have a guy that is short and strong and has a great sense of balance and wrestles, one type of way, or you can have a person that wrestles the complete opposite and you have no clue who you're going to wrestle. So it's kind of like you're preparing for everything, but at the same time, you're preparing for one thing. And that one thing is at the end of the day, what you do the best. And it's so many different aspects. And I think for me, like it was easiest just to go and play sports because I, at the time, you're not really thinking about it. It's, something that's unconscious. It's your your internal brain that's like making all these things work. And I just spent most of my time, like people talk about how, they get bored and they sit and watch TV. I'm like, that's not going to be me. Like, I'm not going to sit and watch TV. I think that it's a waste. Like, I think that there's a lot more to live in this life. There's a giant world out there, and sports for me has been a great way to tap into that, both for the life lessons and getting to go see things, but and then also more importantly, getting a chance to meet people. Because now at this point, I mean, I know people from all across the nation. I know a couple people that live in some other countries, and getting the chance to share, the field with someone of a different state or wherever, but that person is in the same experience that I am. They're out here for a set reason. They're competing in a sport. I have respect for them, and because I know what type of preparation I had and the hard work that I had to get to the point where I'm at. Um, and it makes it nice and easy to be humble and to kind of swallow a little bit of pride and be like, hey, this person is at the same level. They're doing just as much as I am. So I have to give them the respect as my opponent, and they're out here doing the same thing. And there's a sense of joy that comes from behind that. And I think there's sometimes that people start to lose that aspect of sports of, hey, that there is a respect factor that needs to be carried out here. Um, so yeah, I guess it's just a way to prevent being bored and yeah, I guess being not being bored.
And that's a fair answer. And I mean, clearly, yeah, your experience shows that you found ways to fill the time. So no, that's awesome. So then, I mean, with all of your experiences and things that you've been able to do, the places you've been able to go, the people you've met, how do you feel like your experience has kind of shaped who you are today? Is there a specific life lesson or skill that you've learned that has helped you prepare to be able to take on, Born to Win, to help you take on this MMA fight? Just kind of how has that kind of impacted who you've become?
Yeah, so I think sports have a great way of really making failures very present to the world. Yes, there's great success. There is a true level of sense of achievement that I think that's the reason anybody plays sports. It's, hey, I want to win, and I'm driven to win. And at the end of the day, the company born to win. There is this, I want to win so bad, and I'm so competitive, and I'm going to put everything I can and put all the hard work and dedication and all these things that strive to seek towards winning. But at the end of the day, when you fall short and you do fail, it is a giant ego check. It hits, and you have to swallow your pride. You have to look around. You kind of have to pause and say, okay, where did I mess up? Where did I make a wrong turn? Is there something I missed? Was there something I was supposed to do? Was there something that I didn't do? And at the end of the day, sometimes it's you just it hails on your crop and it ruins everything that you planted for and were ready for harvest. And sometimes some things come along and it just gets chopped right out from under you. So that you can't prepare for. That's just part of life. It's, hey, not everything's going to work out. There are some things that you really want that you're just not going to get. But then there's also the, hey, you worked really, really hard. You put all the preparation you could have. You put all this time and all this effort, and you just fell short. And at the end of the day, you have to look at that and you have to then reassess and go, okay, deep breaths, look around. Okay, there's clearly some lesson that I need to learn. There's something I need to change going forward. And to some degree, I mean, sometimes you're able to bounce back and then you can, win the next time. Or you're in a sense where this was a one-time thing. It was, you fell short, you failed, you have to move on. And sports have this way of it's not real because if, sports disappeared from the world, like, yes, we'd have some impact to our economy and some people, would lose some entertainment value. But in the grand scheme, like sports operate in this like non-real world of imaginary, hey, we're just playing a game. So that, hey, what can this game teach me? I think is kind of the fun side. And so for the business aspect, you can think about it in the same regard where it's like, hey, if I just treat this like a game, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I know, we're just about trying to take a step forward every single day, whether that's, an inch or a mile. I think sports kind of have a way of having that lifelong process of teaching that because it's like, well, I wasn't always a good wrestler. If I look back to 14 years ago when I was wrestling, it's like at the beginning of my 14-year career, when I first hit the mat, like I barely knew what a stance was. I had, no good offense. I had no defense. And then one of those worked out to where it's like, okay, I had a really good offense and no defense. And then it got progressively better. And the same for football, the same for baseball. It's that natural progression of if you stick to it and you put hard work in and you're constantly trying to be better, you're going to get better because all work works. Just some work gets you a little bit farther than others. But in the same essence, it's, hey, you got to get up. It's a new day. You've got 24 hours. How are you going to spend that 24 hours? Are you going to get better today? You're going to get worse today? Because I've always felt you don't stay in the same place. Like I've always been a pretty fork in the road. Like, hey, you're either doing all the things that you can to take more steps forward and try to be better and try to accomplish, or, you're not doing the things that you need to do and you're, sitting down and, you're scrolling through your phone and, you're not really focused, you're not doing much. And I think there's, a chance to get better every day, but I think that at the same time, there's a chance to get worse every day and seeking that progress of, hey, we got up, we worked really hard today. I had XYZ things on my to-do list. I finished X and Y. I'm going to move Z to tomorrow and we'll start with that and we'll go from there. So I think sports kind of can break things down in a way of give you an easy roadmap because if you know how to do it in sports, you should be able to do it in business. It requires the same thing. It requires a ton of effort. It requires a ton of hard work. It requires some ingenuity. It requires a lot of intelligence. It requires respect and eat like all the different life skills. You can group them all together and use the vocabulary that you want. But at the end of the day, to be successful with sports, business, relationships, life, I guess, it they all require the same skills. And it's how are you going to go about acquiring those skills and how are you going to do that on a day-to-day basis? So I looked at my sports career and it's like, well, what did I do every day? It's like, well, I made a plan. I had some sense of a breakdown of that plan of big goals. Big goals turn into smaller goals turn into even smaller goals, and you can kind of chip away at those pretty easy. And then, you do that, little by little every day. And next thing you know, you turn around and look and it's like, wow, we came a really far way. I can't even see where I, initially started. And then it's just about kind of swallowing the pill and saying, okay, I see the next task. And so I think I had made one time, there was like this mountain reference where you're climbing up a mountain and everything's great. It's nice and green. And then you finally get to the top and you look and you turn and you span and it's like, wow, like I don't even know where I started. Like I can't even see down to where I initially was. And you see this great view and it's so beautiful and it's green and there's all this color. And then you turn your head and you go, oh, it's another mountain. And you look up and there's another peak. There's somewhere that's higher. And so now it's about, okay, well, how do I get there? And how do I get to the next task and starting to break that down? And it's going to be a journey down into the valley. So there is going to be some type of it's going to be miserable, it's going to suck, there's going to be darkness, there's going to be wrong turns, there's going to be relative evil doing. Other people don't want the best from you, and you have to come out of the valley into the darkness, and it's going to be pain going in, it's going to be pain coming out. you can't stop at the very middle of the valley, because if you stop there, then you're really stuck. Um, you can't turn around and go back, because if you turn around and go back, you still have that stretch of it's going to be brutal to get out. And so I'd rather, continue moving through and, seek to get to that next place. So it's just about constant movement and constant progression, but setting goals and, breaking those goals down into plans and chipping away every single day is the only way to get to true success. It's just little daily tasks.
That is so true. And I love that. I love that mountain visual. And so kind of piggybacking off of that, if you were to look back, he's saying looking back on where the journey that you've come, what advice would you give to that young you, that young Quinn that's climbing up this most current, like the most current mountain you've been able to climb and look up from the top of? What advice would you give to him to kind of keep pushing? Because yes, days get tough, especially in the sports world. So what would you tell him?
Uh, no matter what you do, I mean, if you can accomplish daily tasks, the day is successful. If you do nothing in the day is wasted. I think for me, I kind of lost vision sometimes of, I got so focused on looking at the big goal that, some little daily tasks that I had done that day, they didn't feel like an accomplishment. They didn't feel like I got better. It's going to the gym every single day. You're not going to be strong after the first day. You're not going to be strong after the first week. You'll be a lot stronger after the first month. You'll probably see decent results after 3 months, but who waits until 3 months? So there were some times where, I initially was working out or, doing little things, and it's the reminder. It's, hey, you are doing things right. Just keep doing them. If you can't see now, just keep chugging along, keep knocking off as many daily tasks as you can, and you're going to get to it. I think at the same time, like, the early me sometimes would push things off and say, well, I can do this, I could work twice as hard tomorrow. And it's like, you can always work twice as hard tomorrow. But if you don't do anything today, then today is wasted. And I think there was a lot of times where, I kind of let things, well, I'm going to do this today and then I'm going to do this tomorrow. And it's like, well, just do both today and you can double down tomorrow. So I think for the early, and, I'm finally kind of starting to understand that. And, I was a huge Rocky fan as a kid. And so the, Apollo speech and Rocky 3, when, he's, you know, basically just banging on Rocky, and, he's just hanging out and they're training. He's not doing anything. And he's like, we'll do it tomorrow. And Apollo, just make sure to say there is no tomorrow. And it really wasn't until I'd probably say the last 6 months, um, that has really set in. I used to watch it all the time as a kid, and I used to do it anyways and say, well, I can work twice as hard tomorrow. It's like, you can, but you could do that anyways. But use today as much as you can, and just keep making little daily achievements, because eventually, like, you'll turn around and you can't see where you initially started. But I think it's just losing track sometimes of the daily tasks, and they can get sidetracked.
Yeah, that is very true. And so I'm like, man, I need you to come and talk to my athletes. But so I guess, with the time that we have left, I mean, what ways can we kind of support, the mission that you're on right now? You as an MMA fighter and, with Born to Win, how would you suggest that, we be able to support you and what you've got going on?
Um, I just kind of say, for, the one thing, I'm not looking at it um as much for myself. I mean, I think really for me, I think, the people to kind of resonate and keep that message going. I mean, I'm relatively coming to the tail end of my sports career. At this point, it's more about, how can I help others, and, trying to understand, and the more people I help, the more I can achieve. And so I'm just really, at the end of the day, I'm just like, how can I help as many people as possible? And so I'd say the same for you or for anyone else. Just kind of go about it as, help anyone that you can, whether it's holding the door open, or it's returning the shopping cart inside, or, putting in the cart corral, something like that. So I think really, for me, in terms of, hey, how can anyone else support or do anything else? I think it's just, help anyone who's around you. Every day there could be something where you see someone struggling, to lift something. You can go help them out, or you can give somebody a compliment. I think if we can bring more positivity into the world, I think we'll kind of help everybody. And I guess that's a lot with what I'm trying to do with Born to Win. It's, yeah, my sports story and what I did, but at the end of the day, it's, hey, life is tough. It's only going to get tougher if you look at it from a negative point of view. Like, everyone understands it's going to be miserable, it's going to be brutal. Like, I didn't get to the level I'm at as an athlete by bright and sunny days. There's a lot of rainy, there's a lot of miserable, there's a lot of suck in there. But at the end of the day, if you continue with that positive attitude, help as many people as you can, I think the whole Born to Win message is, everyone is meant to win and achieve at something. I don't know what that is for anyone else. I know what it is for myself. And I think that little internal voice in your head will let you know all the things that you should be doing and can be doing. So if you can listen to it and, help all the people around you and just try to be that helping hand for anyone else, both myself and anyone that you help will achieve more. But then internally yourself, you're going to feel amazing. And so I would feel great if anyone had that support of themselves, because by helping other people, you're helping yourself. If you're giving a compliment to someone else, you're complimenting yourself, and everyone understands how much better you can feel with a positive attitude. My name is Quinn, Mighty Q Redmond, and that is my tomboy story. You guys can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Mighty_Q21, and then on YouTube at Born to Win Media.